I thought I would give you some information up front, and it's something I'll mention at the face-to-face course as well, about how to get a good grade. Now, if you've been reading the online resource documents, they will tell you what you need to do for your assignments. If you've watched the other videos, they'll have some hints and tips and some guidance from me as to what's required for you for the reading, the personal project, and the interview project that we all have to do. But you're probably thinking, what do I need to do to get a good grade? So if I can give you a very simple and short summary here, I hope you find that helpful. To be getting a C grade, whether it's your reading synopsis or your personal project at the end or your interview project, in fact the guidance I'm going to give you here about grades applies to all of the aspects of the course that you're doing. So to get a C grade, you'll need to show a good summary. So if it was the interviews, you'd show the people that you interviewed. If it's your personal project, you provide a summary of all the things that you've learnt. If it was your reading synopsis, you'll say, here are the 80 pages that I read, and here's what those pages were about. So for a bog standard basic summary of your reading or interviews or an outline for your project for the whole course, that would get you a C. If you want to move into a grade B territory, what you're going to need to be doing is something a bit extra, and what I'll be looking for there is for you to start referencing and making connections. And what you need to be doing is asking questions. You need to be referring to previous discussions, and that can be discussions and conversations with other people in the cohort, things that take place at the face-to-face, other books that you've read, your personal ministry context. And what you're doing there is, instead of just giving a summary of something that you've read or discussed, what you're doing is you're providing links. As I say, good ways to do those links to get a B are to say, this leaves me with some questions, and here's how this, oh gosh, that reminds me of something I looked at last week, and here's how this connects into my current ministry context. If you do that, you'll be getting a good solid B. If you want to get an A, there's a third stage for you to progress to, and that's for you really to make some good references, and I'd be wanting to see you make references directly to previous reading, previous texts, other books, quoting specific contexts and conversations. Now, when it comes to the online reading and discussion, if you have read something and you've given a good summary and you've asked some questions and had a discussion and referred to your ministry context, to get an A, what you do is you say, oh yes, and this reminds me of another book that I've read, and put a page reference to that. So if once you start making explicit references to other texts, other discussions and other contexts, at that level, in other words, you bring extra material, that's probably what I'm saying here, that will get you an A. For instance, when you do your personal project at the end of the program, you can provide a summary of the key things that you've learned, that will get you a C. To get a B, you'll need to say, and here are some of the discussions that we had in our groups online. Here are some references and footnotes to the reading that actually took place that supports that. That'll get you a B. To get an A, what you'll need to do is to say, and here are some extra things that I'm bringing to this. And as I say, referencing can be website links, articles, books, discussions. That brings you into the A territory. So I hope that makes sense, what you need to do to get a C, a B, or an A, and you'll get a feel for that as you make postings and assignments and get your grades. There's two elements to the grade that you get. One is a participatory one. If you turn up on the right days and make the right number of postings and interact with the right number of people, that gets you a grade, and that grade carries, I think it's a 25% weighting of your overall grade. And then the other 75% is not something that's just based on a computer pulling off when you turned up and how you posted or how often you posted, but that's those other elements that I just talked about to get a C, a B and an A. So again, I hope that makes sense. I'll talk about this in more depth at the face-to-face. Your interview project and your personal project carry a significant weighting overall, so we'll have a good time at the face-to-face for you to understand how the grading process works. But again, documents are online to tell you the requirements for your assignments. If you follow those and do those, that'll get you a good solid grade, and I've given you some outline here of what you need to do to get an A grade. See you soon.